If you haven't heard, that is, a few days ago a bunch of Islamic terrorists shot up a bunch of cartoonists and a cop protecting them. The way these terrorists just mercilessly walked up and shot a cowering police officer who was, by the way, also a Muslim with absolutely no remorse, that appalls me. In fact, even though I am against death penalty, I wish France would bring back the guillotine just for these two people. Furthermore, this situation is incredibly personal to me because unlike previous Islamic attacks, these attacks targeted free speech in countries where free speech is supposed to be widespread. The reason I haven't talked much about this before is, well, everybody knows about ISIS and Al-Qaeda and how it's wrong, and nobody in the Western world is defending this terrorist groups. Hell, even the other terrorist groups condemned the Taliban attacks. So I thought saying that ISIS was wrong would be a little bit redundant, and I can't offer any battle strategies because I'm not a military strategist. This time, however, this is a direct attack on our freedom of speech. It is an attempt by Islamic extremists to silence criticism and censor the West, to fulfill the radical agenda of imposing Islamic law upon the world. Furthermore, this problem should be labeled as what it is, an act of violence directly perpetrated by the so-called religion of peace. Don't try to skirt around this, don't try to be politically correct. This is a problem within Islam itself that is not present within any other religion. Whenever an extremist Christian or Jewish is criticized, they'll probably go out and say something like, "You're gonna burn in hell." But that's the end of the story. For radical Muslims, the prospect of their opponents burning in agony for eternity is simply not enough. They have to take things in their own hands and personally go out and kill the person who insulted their beliefs. This is what happened to Theo Van Gogh in 2004. Now we can have a debate on whether Islam and religion in general is inherently peaceful and causes good. But it is undeniable that Islam itself inspired these acts of violence. Don't you think that an all-powerful, all-knowing God wouldn't be so insulted he needs you to go kill anybody who makes fun of him? This religion was the driving force behind these murders, and it is undeniable. If Islam did not exist, I'm fairly certain that ISIS would not exist, Al-Qaeda would not exist, Theo Van Gogh would not have been shot in the head for criticism. Sure, there would still be some lunatics who killed people, but at least these lunatics would not be organized, armed, and fighting together under holy verses like, Allah said, a prophet must slaughter before collecting captives. A slaughtered enemy is driven from the land. Muhammad, you crave to the desires of this world, its goods, and the ransom captives would bring. But Allah desires killing them to manifest the religion. Ibn Ishaq, Hisham 484 hadith. Or something like, and kill them wherever you find them, and turn them out from where they have turned you out. And al-fitna, disbelief, is worse than killing. Quran 2:191-193. The line after says something about sparing them mercy if they convert to Islam, which at least is something. But this is still condoned violence, and it's the reason that they kill. Most of the 1.6 billion Muslims in the world would ignore these verses or interpret them differently or give some form of justification for it, like they were taken out of context, they were just defending themselves. Even if that was true, it's pretty clear that it says kill the disbelievers, not kill the oppressors. Sharia law is based upon these types of verses. It is literally taking the word of this book. But I won't go off too much about my atheism and anti-theism. I think it's kind of redundant to talk about these things. Another group I'm mad at are the so-called moderate Muslim apologists who say, well, the attacks were bad, but you shouldn't have made the cartoons. They were offensive and racist. One, Islam is an ideology, not a race. If they were making fun of brown-skinned people, then I would understand. But they were making fun of Islam, which is an ideology. Two, anybody and any belief should be open to criticism and ridicule, especially if it's contributing to the deaths of thousands. Another Charlie Chaplin did this to the Nazis during World War II, and yes, I am comparing radical Islam to radical Nazism. There are these awful people like Anjem Chodari saying shit like, Muslims love the messenger more than their parents, children, and even themselves. Why don't people understand that? Hashtag parachuting on Twitter. Putting your religion ahead of your family. I don't know what planet you're living on, but your version of Islam is a cult. My point is, you don't have to agree with what Charlie Hebdo is saying to protect their right to say this. In my opinion, moderate religion is not getting angry at anyone who draws any type of cartoon, even if they are depictions of Muhammad, not freaking this.
So I will ask you, everyone in the room, how many of you are normal Muslims? You're not extremists, you're not radical, just normal Sunni Muslims. Please raise your hands. Everybody, mashallah, subhanallah. Okay, take down your hands again. How many of you agree that men and women should sit separate? Please raise your hands. Everyone agree. Everyone agree. Brothers and sisters. Subhanallah. So it's not just these radical sheikhs then. Allahu Akbar. Next question. How many of you agree that the punishments described in the Quran and the Sunnah, whether it is death, whether it is stoning for adultery, whatever it is, if it is from Allah and His Messenger, that is the best punishment ever possible for humankind, and that is what we should apply in the world. Who agrees with that? Allahu Akbar. Are you all radical extremists? Subhanallah. So all of you are saying that you are common Muslims, you all go to the different masajid Norway, or are you like a specific sect, like the Islam net sect or anything like that? Are you like that? No. Are you like that? Please raise your hand if you're like this extreme Islam net sect or anything like that. No one. Allahu Akbar. How many of you just go to these normal masajids in Norway, the normal Sunni mosques? Please raise your hands. Allahu Akbar.
The so-called moderates in that clip, there were people who wanted people like Charlie Hebdo dead. They were just not willing to do it themselves. I don't care what you believe as long as you're willing to defend criticism by anybody of anyone, as well as understand that these terrorists were Muslims motivated by Islam. I am so tired of this no true Scotsman fallacy. These people weren't real Muslim. A real Muslim wouldn't do that. Listen, if I was willing to admit that Pol Pot, Joseph Stalin, and Mao Zedong were also atheists and they shared some of my beliefs, then that does not mean I condone or support their actions. It is a simple admission. Just like a Christian might admit that King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, the perpetrators of the horrific Spanish Inquisition, were also probably Christians. And as always, it is incredibly important, although a bit redundant, to remember the fact that not all Muslims are responsible for this. I mean, some of the comments are brutal and extremist on the other side, like, we need to deport all these Muslims. Even though it is incredibly hard to remain a moderate in extremist times, that statement is still ridiculous. Not taking up extremist positions in response to other extremist positions is the topic of another video. It was the original video of this week, but this happens. In fact, one example of an outstanding moderate Muslim, well, take Ahmed, the Muslim cop who died defending free speech, even speech that criticized the things that he believed in. Meanwhile, I encourage everyone to speak out against fundamentalism and extremism, no matter what kind, no matter what you believe. We have to speak out for our freedom of speech, our freedom of expression, our freedom to criticize without anybody being scared of their own lives. Because if we don't speak out for ourselves, nobody will. Don't let their deaths go to waste. #JeSuiCharlie.